Comics Cast. Let it out. Uh, we're actually running just a tad bit slow, so I apologize for that. But it's going to be well worth the wait. So before we introduce our guest for today, I just want to say a little bit about what Comics Cast is about. If you're in the indie comic community, we want you on the show. We're all about you guys, whether you're a penciler, an inker, storyteller, publisher, you name it. If you're in the indie comic community, we want to promote you. And that's what Let It Out is about. It's a draw and talk style interview where we get to showcase an individual, my guest today, and have a little bit more of an intimate conversation with a lot of drawing added to that. So without further ado, let me talk a little bit about who our guest is for today. We're having a little bit of international flavor. We have Rod Rodollfo, all the way from Brazil, who's going to be joining us today. He's a entrepreneur. He's a writer. He's a penciler, inker, up and coming. He has a program called the Samurai Method, which we're going to talk about. It's going to be chock full of fun, and I encourage you to stick around and watch it. So without further ado, let's get this party started and start the show. Here we go. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, I want to welcome Mr. Rod Rodollfo to the show. Say hello to everybody, Rod.
Hello. Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. It was my privilege because I tell you, you're another creator that I was blessed to meet through Phil Russert of Tragedy fame. And he's like a magnet for talent. And I met you. I got to watch you draw during some of the legendary live draws. You're an inspiration to me, and I'm so happy to have you on the show. Like I mentioned before, you hail all the way from the great country of Brazil, so I'm so happy to have you here. And I said it's like I always wanted to stress when we have shows is that Comics Cast is not just domestic. It's not just the United States. We have talent that hails from all over the world, the Philippines, and now we have Brazil. So I'm so happy to have you here. Before we get started, I want to actually put your social media into the comment field. So let me put that in there right now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm very happy.
No problem. So if you look at the bottom, this is how you can follow Rod on Facebook, Instagram, and his own website. So let's just get this started. I know that we got some people in the comment field that are already are chiming in here. We have Saeed, who's been a staple in our audience who's been showing here, and he hails from the Middle East. I forgot exactly what country it is, but I'm glad that he's here. So Saeed, thank you for joining us. And we have Molly that's chiming in here. How you doing? So I want to tell your story. I want to hear that story because, like I said, Rod is a super talent, and we're going to move to the part of the show that we call the origin story. And just keeping up with the comic themes, we want to do that. So I'm going to hand the mic over to you, Rod, and I just want you to give us the lowdown on what got you started into art to where you are today. So here we go. Mic is in your hands.
All right. Thank you very much. The very first comic book I have published was in 2008, I believe. And it was a horror story. I met this writer from the extinguished Ronin Forum Studio. It was a website that's off now. It was a forum with lots of creators there, and I got the opportunity to work with him. And finally, we got published and accepted by, it was 803 studios.
What? Crazy.
They had a submission. We submitted our work. They accepted and they published our work. So that was the very first comic book I have published, worked on with. And then I have worked with Adam Zero. Mm-hmm. It was another miniseries with another indie writer. And after that, I invested in going to New York Comic Con. And in New York Comic Con, I was with my portfolio under my arms and showing my portfolio to everybody. And I got an opportunity to work with Zenoscope. So right now we are looking at some pages from Zenoscope that were published. And I think this is Green Fairy Tales. Green Fairy Tales 83, 81, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, as an aspiring artist, it's very hard to show your portfolio around, right? You have so much insecurities. And I had a story that this guy told me that I should quit working
What?
with because I wasn't good enough. My work sucked, and I didn't have talent. So you should quit. And at that time, that advice, that critic, really devastated me. And I went back to the hostel where I was. It was a lot of money, so I was in a hostel dividing my room with other 6, 8 guys, other people. And I was at the hostel that night, and I was crying.
I know that is a really harsh. Go ahead. Tell the story.
It was awful. So the next day, I took my portfolio under my arms again, and I said, well, what am I going to do with my life now? So what options do I have? I went to the subway again. Well, let's go back to the convention and let's move on, right? What can I do? I was in the subway, and I was like, man, should I just jump in front of the train?
Oh, that's too extreme. All I gotta say is I'm glad you did not listen to that critic, and I'm so glad that you didn't throw yourself in front of the train. Because we are seeing some phenomenal art. So keep on going. So you went back to the con, I take it, and did you show it your portfolio?
Back to the con, and then I talked to another superstar artist, and this guy actually told me, "Hey, I like your work. You have potential, man. So of course you need to work on this, work on that." He gave me real critics, and I was like, "Oh my God, how about all of this that the other guy told me?" And he said, "No, you need to learn, you need to improve. Of course you do, but you have talent. Keep going." So I was like a phoenix,
reborn. You were reborn. Yeah.
And that's when I realized you need to be very careful with who you take critics from, who you listen to, because I started understanding that there are a lot of critics out there, and I started calling these people. Some of these people are just trolls. There are 2 categories of critics: the ones that know what they're talking about, and the ones that don't know what they're talking about,
or the ones that just hate. They're having a bad day, and all they want to do is take people down. So there's such thing as constructive criticism, right?
Yeah, inside each category, there are these 2 types of critics: the ones that want to give you positive critics, that wants you to improve. They don't have a fear of sharing knowledge. And the ones that you just said, the ones that just want to put you down.
Yeah.
So from the second category, that people who don't understand and don't know what they're talking about, you don't want to listen to these people, even if they give you positive critics, because they don't know what they're talking about. And this may include your father, your mother. They are going to tell you, "Oh, you have beautiful, beautiful work, my son. Go on." They don't really know what they're talking about, so they are not going to help you.
Right.
from the people that really know and understand what they are talking about. There are the
Right.
trolls, the ones that only want to put you down, and that they are the people that want to share knowledge with you.
That is
These
so
the ones that
true.
you want to listen to,
Uh-huh.
but you need to be able to identify them.
Yeah, and I think that that leads perfectly to one of the things that I learned about you. You're coming up with this thing called the troll detector, and and I think that's gonna follow really, you know, in hand with this comment. We had Saeed, who is saying, how do you tell the difference, like between
Yeah,
positive and negative things? And so we'll talk about the. I guess, you know, we can talk a little bit about that. Do you want to talk about how you can tell the difference, and maybe how the troll detector? Because I think that's such a fun way of actually putting that philosophy together. You have this thing called the troll detector, and it sounds like something you would see like in Lord of the Rings. You know, if I'm Frodo, I'm gonna look for the, you know, I need a troll detector. I need my trusty sting sword. But
yeah,
it's actually trolls in the terms of people that give you that negative vibe, that people that give you that negative advice. So how about you take a crack at talking about your troll detector as well as answering Saeed's question?
yeah. What I have learned to do is I have created a little system that works really fine for me, really well for me.
Uh-huh.
And you need to when you have your portfolio in front of someone, you need to have some pages there that let's say you have some tricks that you want to ask specific questions, and you need to know that these little tricks you have inside your page. For example, you see this page you are showing right now. I know
Mm-hmm.
that the proportion is right here. So if someone came here and tell me, oh, this is an ugly page, you have proportion problems. When you have absolutely certainty that I know these proportions are correct, and
Mm-hmm.
people tell me that they are wrong, I know that they are a troll.
Ah, so what you're saying is, even though somebody is reviewing your page and giving you portfolio feedback, you're actually flipping it a little bit on them, and you're testing their credibility to
Yeah,
like review your page. So it's kind of like a reverse psychology. I guess you kind of like you're making sure that they can be if they're
it's an
I want,
ambush.
yeah, yeah,
You
I
are
see.
ambushing them. Come, come, and if you
Uh-huh.
fall into my ambush, I know you are a troll.
Ah, that's a pretty good technique. I've never. I think I get that because there's a lot of people out there that are quick to be critical, but
Yeah.
they may not have the expertise to back up their criticism. And you know, not everybody has to be an artist to critique art, but they have to be knowledgeable about art,
Mhm.
especially if they're giving you advice, especially if they're
Yeah.
in the industry type thing. That is a really good tip. I never would have thought of that. Especially when you're on a portfolio review, you know,
Yeah.
you always think that you're a little bit on the defense, but you kind of are a little
Yeah.
bit on the offense too if you know what you're doing, right?
Because when you are an aspiring artist, you have your insecurities.
Mm-hmm.
I know I did, and I
Yep.
was always trying to find people that could give me a good advice. And when you find these guys that I wasn't actually fan of, I mean, this guy had a thousand of years working for DC, Marvel, and every publisher, mainstream publisher out there. And
Uh-huh.
for some reason, I don't know, and I don't even care what was his reason to do that.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, what a troll, man! I mean, do you remember Jonah Jameson talking about
Yes.
Parker photos?
Yes.
He said,
Exactly.
I don't know if I can say this word, crap, 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 mega crap. And we are here outside saying, what are you talking about? These are great photographs, right?
you're Yes, you're right. And I like that mentality because I think that when I was talking to you, your mindset as an artist is so positive and impressed me so much because there was a positivity, like I said, when I talked to you, and you have to have confidence. You have to have confidence in your work. Now, as an up and coming artist, yeah, you have a lot to learn, but I think that I mean, we can look at your artwork here and we can just say that you're beyond that aspiring artist. You are there. This is pro level work, but you have the confidence to back it up. So if you were telling me about that mental state that you have to have that confidence about believing in yourself.
Yeah,
Do you
you
want to
have
talk a
to
little bit about
build
that?
it. Yeah, you have to build this confidence because it's a process, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Uh, do you want to go into the quantum field? Talk about that?
Well, let's that is okay. That's a little bit of a preview of comments to come. Because we'll get into Rod's philosophy in terms of just his larger view of how art and the world, how it affects or how he sees it. But for this part of it, the origin story and then looking at your art, um, I wanted to like really impart on our audience about how your state of mind, your ability to believe, to have that. I think we were talking about it yesterday about how if you go in thinking that you're not good enough, you're already going in there handicapped. You're already going in there with one arm, maybe both arms tied behind your back. You told me
Mhm.
that you came to this conclusion early that you have to believe in yourself and you have to think positively. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you came to that conclusion?
Yeah, I think what helped me is understanding a little bit about myself. Know thyself,
Right.
uh, and that's what I'm trying to bring to the samurai method.
Oh, yeah, you're hinting a little bit about that. This is the samurai method, which is this process that you've come up with. I guess
Yeah,
let's we're just gonna go with it. I want to save that for a little bit later on, but let's go ahead and talk about the samurai method. You mentioned to me that you've come up with this process. It's a work in progress. It's always
yes,
building. You're still building it out, but it's
yes.
basically Rod's philosophy to how to become a better artist. And go for it. Tell us a little bit about the samurai method.
The samurai method is a three steps method that helped me to level up my artistic skills like skyrocket,
Mm-hmm.
much faster than the traditional way.
Mm-hmm.
What I have learned on the traditional way of learning artwork is that you study proportions, anatomy, and then you go to practice some exercises.
Mm-hmm.
And I always felt that these exercises are some kind of fail and trial,
Mm-hmm.
right? You start working on the characters, and then you realize that the always the left eye for some reason is smaller or bigger than it should be. It's on the wrong place, and you start building
Mm-hmm.
uh, these neuron connections inside your brain.
Right.
Uh, so what's happening? Have you ever felt those aha moments when you are learning to draw a face and then you learn, oh, now I got it. This
I,
is how
I, it's like an epiphany. You have this moment of realization. It's like, wow, I finally got it. It's like the dots connect, and
yeah.
unfortunately, that doesn't happen to me that often. But to you, I see this is kind of like your sam. This is a part of the samurai method. Is like practice, learn the anatomy, connect the
Uh,
dots, and then you'll have those aha moments, right?
I think it's about the way you practice the exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Practice doesn't make it perfect if you are practicing it wrong.
Words of wisdom. Totally get that.
So I realized that to get so let's talk a little bit about these neuron connections. What's
Mhm.
happening when you have these experiences is that a new neuron connection is happening inside your brain. You are gaining knowledge. And when this happens, you activate your limbic system.
Mm.
Your limbic system is sending a message to your endocrine system. Your endocrine system is creating all these biochemicals. We call them hormones.
Mhm.
Dopamine, endorphin, serotonin, adrenaline. And what it creates in your body, it's a chemical reaction. So you are going to have a physical feeling. You may have butterflies in your belly. Your palms start sweating. And this is
Mhm.
the trigger for a emotion. This emotion is going to push you towards an action. So the more you repeat the exercises, the more you are creating neuron connections. And the more you repeat all this process.
Uh-huh.
So there will be a time that when you have enough practicing under your belt, you will create a community of neuron connections inside your brain. So you are going to start to create a memory, a
Mhm.
know-how, and understanding of around some activity. So when you look at guys like Alex Ross,
Mhm.
Brian Hitch,
Mhm.
Ivan Hayes, Mike
Oh,
Deodato,
you name it. Those are all greats. Uh-huh.
these guys have a brain like half of their brains are connected. Their pathways, neuron pathways, connected just around creating artwork.
Mhm.
So they have what I'm calling the secret that professionals have, and this is biomemory. This is related to your decision patterns.
Mm.
Biomemory is the cause, and muscle memory is the result.
I was just gonna say that because you mentioned this is what I love about my conversation with you yesterday when we were doing the pre-show is often when I talk to talented guests, we talk about practice, but you're like it's not just practicing, it's practicing the right way, and then you just added a layer of a scientific approach to it. There's a biological explanation because some people will have that argument. It's like, well, he was born with it. Is it talent, or was it just 10,000
No,
hours? Was it 10,000 hours of practicing the right way to form those neural pathways to get those chemical reactions that create muscle memory that allow you to become like an Alex Ross or a Brian Hitch or an Ivan Reese. I like that. I'm assuming this is what the samurai method is. It's not only teaching you to like recognize these things, but to actually think about it so that way you can become a better artist faster. Is that correct?
yeah, I think that knowledge is this kind of knowledge transformed the way I see life and the way I do things. So the traditional way, it will get you there eventually because you are going to practice, and you are going to create all this experience. But it takes a long time. It's through trial and failure. And
Right.
I was asking myself, how can I practice this exercise in a little different way so I can create these connections faster?
Mm-hmm.
And when I started practicing it in this way, I mean, I improved so much in such a short time that I was like, man, this is the way to build to build this. This is how you do it because the traditional way is taking too long. I, I can't
And you
wait. I can't
and
wait to reincarnate to work.
well, this is what this okay. This is another thing that I I really thought was is tremendous of you, or really special about what you're trying to do, is that you came to this conclusion, and your experience at Comic-Con, that first go around having that really negative interaction with that person who shall not be named, but they basically told you, and you could have gone two different ways. You could have decided, you know what, I'm not going to draw anymore. I'm just going to give up. And luckily, the other side of you, the positive side of Rod, said, you know what, I'm going to, I went back to the hostel. I cried a little bit. I felt really down. I contemplated jumping in front of the subway, but I'm glad that I didn't. I'm going to actually go back to the con. I'm going to talk to somebody else. I'm going to get a second opinion, because no one should take one person's review of your artwork and let that define you. And you went there and you went back. And now that you've come up with the samurai method, you went back there, got a positive response, and you decided you're going to get better at it. And as you got better at it, you came to these conclusions about like neural pathways and chemical reactions and endorphins and things like that. And you recognize, I see like your art, it's so phenomenal. And you've gotten to this point where, hey, I reached this next level because I changed my state of mind and I came up with this. I practiced the correct way. I learned, and you came up with the samurai method. And this is what I think is so beautiful about the samurai method. It not only describes how you leveled up, but you want to share that with everybody. You want to share it. You're not keeping it to yourself. So that's something brilliant.
I think actually this is really, really important right now, because it has to do with all of this, knowing yourself, how your brain works. And I have gone to a lot of courses. One course that I was part of was from this guy. He was a psychiatrist from England.
Uh-huh.
And I had other courses with doctors to really understand. And one of these courses taught me how these endorphins, dopamines, how these biochemicals affect my body, and how these affect our reality.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
This I think it's a very important knowledge to have. And I started creating my creed because it changed my life. And now I believe, in the core of my belief is that what I want for myself, I want for everybody else. I want health, wealth, love, compassion, respect, all these little things of life.
Oh, these are not little things. They're huge things. And I can tell you that it's infectious in a good way. When I'm talking to you, I can feel that positive energy. And, we had such a good time talking about how that connection that you were talking about, and we're going to save it for later on, because your overall philosophy, which is good, I think it ties into your art. I see phenomenal artwork, and now that I see, or I've heard about why your art, or the way that you see your art, and how it translates the way that you are personally into your artwork. And we're actually gonna go into that a little deeper after we do some live drawing, because I think once we see some live drawing, I want to show that process. I want to show that magic happen, where we take something that's a blank page and show you bring something to life on that blank piece of canvas. And then as we get to the latter part, this is a tease for people to stick around after the live drawing, is that if you want to to draw like Rod, not be exactly like Rod, but be able to understand how he draws and how he thinks about things, it translates into the way that he looks at life. So I want to tease everybody to stick around to make sure that you watch the live drawing, because we're going to go into that right now. But we want to actually build upon that. and see why Rod does what Rod does. It's incredible stuff. So you know, before we get to the lab drawing, I actually want to like talk a little bit about your art though, because there's so much energy in here, and the one that I really liked, because I'm just a big Predator movie franchise fan, and I wanted this to be the banner to help promote the event where that you're going to be here, because this piece looked like it could have been official art for the movie franchise. It's so detailed and it's so incredible, and I can't even count how many Predators are in this this picture.
Yeah.
But I would like for you. Can you tell me, was this official? Was this used for anything? Was this fan art, or
No,
can you talk about this?
this was just a fan art. I was working on this process, and I was actually studying how to color, and I wanted something. I wanted to work on this Predator, and I mean, this guy is so ugly. And,
He's so ugly that it's awesome. Like it's an
yeah,
awesome
and this was just a fun art practicing that I wanted to do an army of these guys. I was imagining, you know, this is a powerful army, and if you face these guys, I mean, I would turn around and just run because there is no way to defeat these guys. I mean, Justice League would have problems here.
Well, I had to tell you, I mean, if this is your idea of practicing, I need to level up my practicing, because this is amazing. And the fact that you just did this as fan art and not like a commissioned piece for, I don't even know who, I'm not even sure who has the Predator rights now, but it's incredible artwork. And I think this is a great example of your mastery of just so many skills in the I mean, this could go beyond indie comics. I mean, I could see this being used for concept art for movie production. But I see such, we see incredible line work, your mastery of line weights, and being also just to use these strokes to create a texture and detail that's just mind blowing. And then we top that with with coloring. I don't know where I don't know if you taught yourself coloring, but your color theory is awesome because you've allowed the colors to create depth, and you're not going crazy with all these, with a myriad of different colors, because this fits. This reminds me of that scene at the end of Predator 2 when Danny Glover shows up in the Predator spaceship, and he's confronted by the Elder Predator and the other tribe of Predators that are there. And what the cinematographer director set up in there was that it was this orangey, hazy, smoky atmosphere. So it created this mood, even though you weren't there. It felt like it was like this muggy, kind of like arid, hot environment. And when I look at this, I feel the same way. You could have easily have just said, I'm going to color the Predators to look like they look like in bright, natural light. But you created this moody atmosphere. You want to talk a little bit about your experience with color theory? I mean, did you study that, or is this something that you did?
No, I had some courses on it too. I don't believe I have mastered it. I think I have a long way to go. But one thing that I try to keep in mind is that on the front characters, you can see that they are a little bit more saturated than on the characters on the back, because there in the atmosphere there are all these kind of particles, and dirty. So the characters on the very back, they should be very little saturated. They should be more gray to them. So I believe that this gives a little bit of depth, and also the atmospheric perspective theory.
Yes.
This helps.
And I think this is going back to what we talked about before, about, I want to say that you're a very cerebral artist, because not only, you know, when you talk about color theory, you know, I think some people are like, hey, well, if you're doing foreground, middle ground, and background, you use X, Y, and Z to do it because that's the way color theory works. But you went into like atmospheric particles. It's like you understand the science behind why things look more desaturated, why they look more saturated, and why things like this predator that's in the foreground, why he's much more the light on him, and why
lighter. Yes.
Yes, he's lighter, and you know, and you know, from composition wise, it allows it so that everything doesn't just get all muddy and all muddled together. You know, you see that it creates depth, and there's just so much going on here, but I find myself like staring at it and just zooming in like I was doing earlier to like, you know, reveal all the little textures.
Details.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
where
so
is
amazing.
Waldo?
Yeah, exactly. Where's Waldo? Except they're all predators here, and very, very cool. And you know, you say, yeah. What was that again?
The colors here in the front guy. This front guy should be the primary focal point.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the colors help to emphasize this guy and tell the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so impressed when I saw this. I'm impressed with all of your artwork here, and you know, some of my other favorites. I love this Batman one too, because you know, I think that if you're doing single image shots of a character, it's, yeah, everybody can. I mean, you can do a pinup, but you've actually are building a story behind it. You know, like it's not just a flat, you know, museum pose. And not only that, I love how you effectively like put in these like splatter effects, and you know, it's like snowing in Gotham, so it adds like another layer of realism to it, and perspective and depth. And I like how you didn't have to go into like doing so much color. You just chose to like for the background, for the cityscape, you just chose to isolate color in certain areas because you didn't want it to detract from Batman.
Yeah, yeah. It's basically a gradient.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically a gradient on the back, and with this light to just pop up the character in the front.
Yeah, I mean, you say that you have much to learn, or you're not a master. I'm gonna say, hogwash, you are a master. You did. This is just really, really cool stuff. I was so impressed with this, and not only that, there's some really complex foreshortening in here too. It's very hard to pull off that exaggeration and not make it, or the foreshortening, so it doesn't look hokey. It doesn't look wonky or whatever. You know, you've it's a flat illustration, obviously, but it looks like he's coming in to, like, he's gonna swing into your room. It's that three-dimensional. Very, very nice artwork.
Actually, that is the hardest thing for an artist to achieve. You know, when you make the character look like it's alive and it's just going to jump. I have seen a very, very few artists being able to do that. I don't see that on this Batman. For some reason, it's not there yet. But
I think it's very. I'm like I said, I'm going to beg to disagree with you. What is really cool about this, and we're gonna talk a little bit about your OCs before we get into the live. I sort of jumped the gun because I thought we were going to go into live drawing, but we had so much that I wanted to talk about your artwork that you shared with me, so I wanted to like do that justice before we get to the live drawing. But one more thing that I'm going to talk about this particular piece that I really love, that I think is something that so many artists are guilty of or fail to realize when they're drawing, that adds that little bit more of dynamicism. I don't know if that's such a word, but it adds a more dynamic, realistic quality, is the torso twist. You know, and I'm looking at his abs here, and you look at his abs. They're not the six-pack that is straight like this. They're like this, and that little bit of detail, that torso twist, is something that I'm guilty of it myself. I don't take it. Everybody wants to just kind of like, even if you're trying to draw something really dynamic, it's something in your head that most artists don't do, and you did it, and it's something. So, yeah, we want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think what we can what's this expression? Corporal expression,
Mm-hmm.
right? When someone is on a dynamic pose, I think when you do this torso twist, it goes a long way. It gives the impression that he's really moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, anytime you need to create some action uh, to twist the torso, it's one of the easiest way to create this illusion of action, I think.
Yeah.
Because just by doing that, the character looks like well, he's not posing,
Right. That's
right?
exactly that's it. It's not. He's not posing. He's actually. It's moving. It's a static illustration, but it creates that illusion of movement because you
Yeah,
see the muscles interacting as they would, and something as simple as a torso twist, which is a perfect example, just right here. This is one of my favorite pieces of yours. Okay, so um, tons of great artwork. I want to like make sure I'm gonna like pop this up one more time. Let's see. This is how you can follow Rod. Don't go there now. Just sort of note that. This is what we want you to make sure you check that out a little later on. I'm gonna share this again later on, but it is in the comment field. So we were flashing through your artwork, during while you were talking. And if you follow him on Facebook or Instagram, you can see a lot of this artwork. But let's talk a little bit about your OCs, your original characters, your IPs, your intellectual property. These are the things that you're we saw stuff that you did for Marvel, DC fan art, your Battlestar Galactica, your Zenoscope stuff, just incredible artwork. But like any artist, creator, you want to do something, you want to create something that's your own. And
yeah.
I saw these, we hinted about like some of these characters that you're doing. So we are going to be drawing one of these, but before we get to that live drawing, I want to like talk about some of your original characters. So here we go. Tell us about this particular character. Who is this, and what is he about?
Well, he's part of a larger group of superheroes. Uh, I wanted to play with superheroes because I love superheroes. I love what they represent. What's behind the symbol:
Uh-huh.
justice, freedom, dignity, respect, all these kind of things. And I just wanted to play and create superheroes of my own. And what I did is based on the superheroes that I really enjoy and I really like
Mhm.
Batman and Wolverine.
Yes.
I
uh,
mean, this is the Black Scarab.
the Black Scarab. Okay.
It's
Yes.
what I'm calling him.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I have some little twists on them. He's not like Bruce Wayne and not like Logan, but he's kind of based on them. So they were my inspirations to create all of these characters. And I have the Light Warriors,
Mhm.
which is
That's
a group of all these characters. So
mhm.
these ones I called Diamond and the KungFu Ninja.
I love your names, the titles that you came up with. Diamond,
Yeah,
and you didn't have to come up with like some super creative name. Kung Fu Ninja. It's just like he is what he is. The
we,
name is a description is in the
does it
name.
get better than that? The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right, right. You can't be just being literal.
Yeah, when I mean, uh, when I look at these guys, I see Iron Fist and
Power
Power
Man,
Man.
Luke Cage. Yeah,
Yeah,
Luke Cage. Yeah.
Luke Cage. So uh, of course they will have the twists. They won't follow the same stories, but they were based on these characters that I grew up loving, and
I think.
I just want to create something superhero
Mhm.
that is going to be a crossover that
Ah.
the
Mhm.
two would never dare to.
Yeah, in fact, we're going to talk about that crossover a little bit later on too. I keep on hinting about stuff that we're going to talk later on. So this is my way of planting little seeds so that our audience sticks around after, for the entire show here. But I love that because I think that what you're trying to say with these characters, that you love superheroes, and you're kind of like paying an homage to characters that you grew up with, that you loved. and
Yeah,
and what you're saying is that you're not necessarily like, who can say they came up with something completely original. I mean, what I think that you're doing is you're recognizing what makes Batman successful, what makes Logan meaningful to you, what makes Iron Fist and Luke Cage Power Man. These are influential characters in your life as you grew up, and now you get a chance to create it. And what you're doing is you're recognizing these superhero archetypes,
hmm,
these things that you like about them, and now you get a chance to create them. And I love this art piece too, because as I was looking at it, I like how you came up with this like the Predator image that we showed earlier. You have essential characters here, and this is another example of just your wonderful grasp of color theory. You have the central characters, and they're framed by these menacing figures that are in the foreground that you don't even see. You only see their hands. So you see this image. And then what if you look in the background, in the shadows, you see all these other bad guys. They're just hiding out, and it's not immediately apparent, but it's like, this is, again, you mentioned, it's like, where's Waldo? I found myself like zooming in and looking at all the little details. And you've created this wonderful sense of atmospheric depth, with the colors. You can almost smell the street. Like, you see the neon lights and you see the puddles of water, and you just think, well, yeah, this is kind of like a seedy back alley in Chinatown or something like that, where they're
yeah.
about ready to do battle. Just incredible artwork. So then you have this character. You want to talk a little bit about her?
Well, she is Athena, the Greek god Athena.
Yes.
So obviously, she was based on Wonder Woman,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
but she is actually the god herself.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, uh, no Amazon would have a chance against this girl, against this goddess. She's a
Mm-hmm.
goddess. So I think I want to bring what the Greek gods had in mind for her. That is, she is not only the god of war,
Mm-hmm.
but she's the god of wisdom.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that. Um,
Yes. So
you know,
uh,
mhm.
I don't know how to write her because I'm not that wise. And she is the god of wisdom.
But you know what? You mentioned is like, she, to us, contemporary, we look at, yeah, she does look like Wonder Woman. But you know what? Before Wonder Woman, Athena, was there.
Yeah.
Artemis. So one could say that Wonder Woman is based off Athena, and then of course your version of Athena may be based off Wonder Woman, but it's sort of like, the cart before the horse before the cart. It's not one of the. It's one of those things, is that you're actually drawing from a much larger, older story, and coming up with
Much
your
older
version.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, this is black and white. We got to see that color before that, and um, there's just so much going on here in terms of how you have different strokes, different brushes, all to create this really powerful image. It's just amazing what you could do just even with black and white. Just phenomenal artwork. Like I said, I could spend many hours just oogling over your artwork, because you put so much detail into it, and there's a story, there's a narrative behind it. So that leads us up to the next character, which is going to be our first live drawing challenge that we're going to be doing, and this is Light. Um,
Yeah.
this is this character here in the upper left corner. This is a much larger picture. but I had it zoomed in there because wanted to focus on her. Um, but before we get into talking about light, I just wanted to talk about this composition. This is another example of Rod's just phenomenal talent. I mean, look at that urban cityscape that he's put there in the background, and then you have these onlookers at the bottom, and this reminds me of Brian Hitch. I don't know if you're a Brian Hitch fan.
Oh, yeah,
Actually,
Brian.
I think you mentioned, we were talking about that earlier. Brian Hitch, Ivan Reis, who's I think he's from Brazil too.
Yeah.
I look at this piece, and this Rod, this feels like it could measure up to those greats. It's just a tremendous composition.
Thank you so much.
I just it just shows. You were talking about that little test that you kind of give to people that are maybe critiquing you and asking them about like proportions and maybe perspective and things like that. This is an example of your mastery of perspective, proportion. I love the fact that it's a worm's eye view. I'm a big fan of that because, for superheroes, as mere mortals, if we were looking up to superheroes, we're just the little fleas on the ground looking on up. But I like that because it adds that more dynamic story. Yeah, the power storytelling.
Yeah.
But okay, so I wanted people to see this, and I wanted to like show this as our first representation of what we're going to be live drawing. So I'm going to be booting up. Rod, go ahead and get your tablet ready to go. He's going to be drawing this character Light, and while we're drawing it, I'm going to let Rod tell you about Light, who she is, what she's about, what you want to try and what kind of story you want to tell with her. But I want everybody to check this out. And if you're going to draw along with us, I'm going to zoom in real quick here. And I would like for you to do a screen capture. And so you can know what she looks like and draw along with us. We're going to spend about 20 minutes on this. And while we're doing it, I'm going to let Rod tell us about her and what he's trying to do with her story-wise. So screen capture this. And I'm going to bring up Rod's art cam. So here we go. There. And all right. So we'll start right now. The timer will start. Oh, before we do that, I forgot. I just got so used to like our normal audience here. If you're new to our Let It Out programming, if you want to draw along with us, comment in the field. Let me know that you're drawing, and then once you do complete your drawing, post it to our sister page, which is on Facebook under Art Show. So Facebook Art Show, and let me know in the comment field that you're going to be drawing along with us, and we're going to be doing Light. So I'm going to start the timer, and Rod, I'm going to put the mic in your hands, and you can tell us a bit about who Light is and what you want to try and tell her story.
All right. So Light is a character that I based on Superman. Only that she's better.
Okay.
Well, because what a real superhero should be doing is not only punishing the bad guys. I don't believe that. I mean, she is not the punisher. She's not here to punish people. She's here to help people to evolve. And when you are a bad guy, it's because in some way, somehow, your psychological thinking is at a little low level of consciousness. And when you get to the higher level of consciousness, you start to understand that virtue is the reward in itself. I don't remember if it was Aristotle who said this or Plato, some of these great philosophers. But virtue, when you start acting with honesty and when you start to taking away people's pain and suffering, you are actually start to create a better world. So that's what I want her to be. She represents something that is not punishing the bad guys, but she is helping people to understand and to become better instead of just sending them to prison.
Gotcha. I understand.
Uh, well, this is actually a big challenge, right? Okay, so let's start this drawing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got you like talking about Light's background, and I didn't realize that you didn't get a chance to start drawing. I'm gonna actually reset the timer to 20 minutes, and that way you can go ahead and start. You can get your drawing started.
Okay, so I'm gonna need some help from you.
Okay.
I'm here at my carb. It's carb is my database with
Uh-huh.
all of the references that I have. So
Okay.
what I like to do is I have all this content,
Oh, interesting.
structure, anatomy, proportions, perspective, head, hands, feet,
Uh-huh.
corporal superheroes. Uh, my mouse went dead, so guns, vehicles. So on here on scenes, I
Oh.
have all these scenes of all these submissions that I have done for Marvel.
Awesome.
And
Uh-huh.
let me have a look. I think here, we may found some.
So
Uh,
I just want to let our audience know this is something that Rod is also doing. Is he has this thing he wants to launch this thing called CARB, which is Comic Artist Reference Book, and
yes,
this is what I think that you're talking about. This is an example of all these references that Rod has come up together, which I assume this is what you use to help generate your compositions, right?
yes.
How you this is awesome. So do you need what do you need from me? Do you need me to help you pick a pose to like maybe
Yeah.
draw light? Uh-huh.
Actually, I'm thinking about getting this one and draw just her face because we have just 20 minutes.
Yes, yeah, do that. Go ahead. And
Okay.
I want to stress is that it does not have to be um, like ready to go to press illustration. This is just I want people to understand your process. I want people to see, like I said, the magic kind of happens. So this is kind of neat. I want people to I want our audience to understand is this is an example of how an artist like Rod uses references, how he can use a reference, in this case like a 3D model, to come up with an idea to help him generate. This is also a part of your samurai method, right? This is allows
Yeah.
you to become faster and to come up with things. So yeah, so here we go. Rod, you just use this reference that you're doing here and go to town. And while you're
Okay.
doing it, yeah.
Uh, all right. So let me choose this layer here, and there are three ways that you can. Why is it blue?
I'm not sure, but there you go. There you
Uh,
go. It's black now. Okay.
there are three ways you can take this reference and draw it and use it. So one way would be to just look at it and just start drawing beside it. The
Mm-hmm.
other way is by the Dure method, Albrecht Dure method. And this guy taught us that you can make a grid here. You just create a grid, and then you create another grid on the side, and you start picking up the lines where the lines are on the grid. So it helps you to create an exact copy of this reference, right?
Yes.
And the third way would be just by tracing it. You can trace it exactly on another layer, you just trace it. But I would advise to be very carefully when you are tracing, because it can lead to other problems. One problem that you can have when you are tracing is the lack of structure, the structure of your drawing. Um, if you are tracing it, the credibility of your drawing, if you don't understand how structure works and how to transform these 2D shapes into a 3D form, you are going to have a problem with it. We have examples of this on um, the community, on the comic art community, when artists tried only trace, and they got a lot of critics for doing that, because it simply doesn't look right. So
Yeah.
be very careful when you are tracing, simply tracing an architect, an character. And what am I doing here? I think because I have already created the pathways of my my neurons. So I am actually on the second step of the samurai method, which would be to translate these 2D shapes I am creating here into a 3D form or model. So I am just going to lower the opacity here and create a new, and I'm going to start working over this. Looking at the reference there. So the first step of the samurai method would be to know the secret that professionals have, and that is the that's the decision patterns you have. Once you have those decision patterns, you can go to the second step of the method, which is translating the 2D shapes, understanding the 2D shapes and translating them to a 3D form. And once you have that, you can go to the third step. And the third step would be to put it all together. So understanding shadows, hatching, and everything else, the composition. But I am looking here at the reference, and
What I like about what you're showing right here is that it's like even when you show where her eyes are in particular, it's like you are understanding what is actually the underlying composition, or what's underneath the composition, which is her skull. And I like how you actually show how the eye orbitals would be there underneath it. So it's really cool to see that I think when other artists are drawing, is that sometimes they forget to think about what's underneath there, like what's the skeleton that's underneath there. And I think that that's really neat that you're showing that in your underdrawing.
yeah, I believe that the artist doesn't draw only what he sees, but he draws what he understands. And when you understand all this, the uh, sistema ósseo, the bones system.
Hmm.
I,
The ske-
I
the skeletal the, ske- the
translate.
skeletal system. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
the skeleton. When you understand the skeleton system and the muscular system and the
Hmm.
anatomy, well, it's much easier to represent that because you know how it works.
Hmm.
And that's all the neuron pathways you need to create, you know, to be able to translate this information into the paper.
So like while you're doing this illustration, you want to talk a little bit about you mentioned that light is kind of like a your version of Superman. Does she
Yeah.
what are her powers? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, she's a character that I'm still developing, so
Hmm.
I'm not really sure, but I would like her to be actually the Superman. Only that she is much more compassionate than him, and
Uh-huh.
yeah, you
More
do
more
challenge
compassionate? Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
way more because she is going to face the problem that she's not a punisher. She's not going to take Lex Luthor to the prison.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to make Lex Luthor understand his wrong ways of doing things. You know,
Oh. Hmm.
she's going to make him understand that the virtue is reward on itself, and that's when she's going to start talking about the quantum physics field.
Yeah, I guess this is a good. I guess we can talk about it now. Let's because we talked about light, like why her name is Light, and you were talking about like I mentioned that you're a very cerebral artist. Uh, I guess this is a good time for us to talk about. You want to talk a little bit about quantum quantum physics and how that
Okay.
applies to light?
Yeah, sure. So, quantum physics, um, they have discovered that there are two assumptions of science that they actually got wrong.
Hmm.
And the first assumption is that related to the structure of the atom, the atomic structure. Uh, we now know, the scientific community now know that uh, electrons, protons, and neutrons, they are not isolated from each other. There is a field energy that interconnects and creates our reality. So we are actually living in a field of energy that Stephen Hawking called the mind of God. Uh, Dr. Amit Goswami called it the cosmic consciousness. And we are part of it. We are all interconnected. We are part of this energy field. And when they discovered it, this energy field is uh, is created by what they call particles of photons or particles of light. When they discovered this, they started creating all these experiments with these particles of light. So this is what they got to the second assumption that science got wrong. And it is the assumption that whatever is happening inside our body doesn't affect the real world. So we now know that whatever is happening inside our body, it does affect the reality we live in. So we are creating our reality with our thought patterns, with our emotions, with our actions, and this. I mean, this is mind blowing, man. I mean, when I was when I found these theories, this changed my life. You know, because if what is happening inside my body is actually affecting the external world that I live in, I mean, my next question was, what is happening inside my body?
Ah, so when we were talking about this yesterday, it's 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 basically like for us like sci-fi nerds, it's the force, right? Basically, quantum physics is kind of like, hey, it's the force. You know, we're all everything that we do is tied together, right? It's like what we do in what happens is to us internally does affect things externally, like in our
Yeah.
own reality. Is that correct? Like, is that like a layman's term of what you're talking about?
Yeah, for what I understood, we are living in a field of energy. That's what they called it.
Mhm.
And scientists like Stephen Hawking, they attributed a intelligence for this field.
Mhm.
You know, terms like, and the funny thing, Stephen Hawking was an atheist his entire life.
Mhm.
And he called this field the mind of God. I mean, what?
It's interesting to see like him kind of like uh, come to these conclusions. You know, even despite some of his personal beliefs. Um,
Yeah.
so basically, with light, so light, how does she tie together with this idea about quantum physics? Like, what is her tie, her connection to this?
Well, she understands it and she creates the reality, her reality at least, with
Hmm.
compassion, love. Uh, you know, she acts in a way that she can create the world that she wants. We all want a peace and harmony in our world.
Hmm.
And the way I see that we are living right now is that a lot of people doesn't understand this and doesn't have this knowledge, because if this is actually true, and I believe it is, uh, most of people are living in fear, and that's how we are creating our world. So I believe that this knowledge is important, because it's not that fear is important too, you know, because it's when your body is telling you, well, you are here in this dark alley and this guy is following you. So uh,
Yeah.
you need adrenaline. The adrenaline, you go throughout that process we have talked, and you need adrenaline. You need to run. It's not time to, you know, to rest and have some cookies.
It's the fight or flight response, right? You know, it's like.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly.
Mhm. So
Uh,
I think it's cool because you know, with your character Light, um I think it's kind of it's neat that she's a character that's not uh only just doing the deed, but she's trying doing the deed for good. She's actually trying to make the villains that she's or the evildoers that she's confronting, she's trying to make them see the evils in their ways too. So it's not just something that's on the surface. She wants to do something that's more than just save the day. She wants to teach the evildoer. Is that what's the difference, I guess, in terms of what you want to do with light?
Yeah, I think I want to share this knowledge because I think this is important. People, I think this knowledge, this quantum physics knowledge, should be taught in the school. This should be on the mainstream media every week. And she's just a messenger of this knowledge, and how we should start to understand more about ourselves, because at the same time that this knowledge is powerful, right? Because it
Mhm.
puts the power in our hands. I mean, we have the power to change the world, not only by our deeds, but by the way we understand reality, the cognition we have about reality. I mean, one of the big one of the big challenges you may have as an artist is your belief system. If you believe that you are a starving artist and that artists never get success, artists never have a great life because it's not possible, well, then you have in your subconscious mind a program that is not going to help you to achieve success.
Right. State of mind, right? You have to have that proper state of mind.
Uh, and if I can help someone to understand these kind of things, I do believe that I am helping to create a better world, because I am alleviating a pain and suffering from someone else, and that's what I want to do.
So,
Right?
yeah, I love your philosophy behind your art. Um, and then as we talk a little bit more about light, is she human, or is she alien like Superman? Do you
No,
have
she's human. She's
she
human
is human?
because the humans have this power, not
Mhm.
aliens. I don't. I
Ah.
never met aliens.
Don't worry, I didn't take it that way, but I wanted to, because you said there were some parallels, I guess, to Superman. So I just wanted to like to see how far that went in terms of like what she's about. So she is human. So yeah, I don't I know that you're still fleshing out the story in terms of who she is and what she's about. What other details can you share with us? Because I know that you mentioned that this character is going to be appearing in an anthology later on, and I want to like whet people's appetites in terms of like this original character from your own IP. Like, what other details can you share about her that wouldn't spoil anything about that story that's coming out later on?
Oh yeah, there will be a Kickstarter anthology that Phil Russert from the what's called the
Legendary
illust-
Studios.
what's called, oh man, my god. Legendary Studios, yeah.
Yes, Legendary Studios. Yep.
Legendary Illustrations, actually.
Hmm.
And
Yes, right.
he's going to launch a anthology with what is called unknown heroes. So
Right.
there will be a lot of other artists in this anthology telling their stories, and it's going to be on October on Kickstarter. And I believe it's going to be a very, very good book, because I know a few of these talents, and these guys are really on the top game of their on the top of their games. You know,
Mhm.
they are from the legendary illustrations, and Phil represents them. And I mean, on my story, I just want to introduce her to the world, because later on, uh, I also have a mini series that I want to talk to tell a story, and that's where I'm going to launch the Light Warriors, and it's going to be uh, a crossover from parallel universes. And I want to talk about quantum physics and uh, how all these emotions, this how our cognition of reality, how it really affects the reality, and how she actually is helping, not only to punishing people. She's helping people to become better, because once you help the bad guy to become better, he don't simply comes out of the prison and do the same things again.
Mm-hmm.
So they really uh, they stop hurting other people. They find peace, and that's what we want for everybody else. I mean, it doesn't mean that he doesn't have to pay for his crimes. He still have to
Mm-hmm.
pay for his crimes, but he will, because he understands his crimes now. He won't make them again,
Exactly. Yeah.
because our prisonal system doesn't help. I mean, if you go to prison, you get out of there worse than you came in.
And so about this anthology that you're doing with Phil and Legendary Illustrations, is it going to be like a 5-page short story, 20, like how many pages is story going to be in this anthology?
My story is going to be 10 pages.
10 pages, 10 pages.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure if everybody is going to make a 10-page story, but I know it's going to be some very cool artwork over there.
And are you going to be can you talk about who the main villain is going to be? Have you thought of who that person is? Can you reveal it?
Uh, what I was calling him? I think he was on the first page. Let me have a look. I don't remember his name.
He is so bad that he does not even need a name.
Well, this guy actually is not the main villain.
Oh, he's
Villain.
not the main villain. Okay,
No,
but
because
he's.
I didn't create a main villain yet.
Oh, okay, I see.
This is just a villain, because uh, when she's done with this guy, he will be no villain no more.
Oh, that's right. He gets rehabilitated, right? Where he
Yeah,
becomes.
in
Uh-huh.
a way. Well, this is kind of I don't want to spoil the story,
Oh,
but
don't spoil it.
this is an actual social problem I see on our society. And when she solves this, uh, she solves at least this guy's problem, his belief system. He changes his well, the villain actually changes his belief systems himself. She just shows him uh, reality. She just shows him some compassion, some love, some light. She flashes a light on his life, and she takes out the darkness. And
Interesting. Yeah.
the guy just decides, well, you know, Yeah, I mean, we all want to do better.
All right, so just to give you a heads up, we got less than 2 minutes left in this, and um, I would just like you to take it as far as you can, and then like later on, Rod, if you want to like polish it up, and if you want to share a more finished piece, we can show that a little later. I mean, you can give it to me, and I can post it a little bit later on, so that people that watch the show on demand, they can see what the finished artwork is, and then watch this show to see how it was conceived, how it was started. But I find the character of Light to be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to that. So our audience, I want you to all remember that in October, coming from Legendary Illustrations, which is a studio that Rod belongs to, under that's is founded by Philip Russert, and it's going to feature an anthology with several different characters, and one of them is Light, which we are drawing right now. And she has an interesting story. It's she's kind of like Rod's version of Superman, except that she, yeah, exactly right. But you gotta get the anthology to get the whole story, because on the surface it seems like that. I mean, I think that's just a analog that we can use, but she's different from Superman. She has a different power set, and she has a different way of dealing with the adversaries that she faces. But it's something that I definitely think that that our audience should bookmark and look forward to in October, seeing what this character is about. All right, so we're approaching our last 30 seconds. So I haven't been looking at what you've been doing, so I'm going to be very excited to see what you've been drawing, because I've been kind of like struggling myself. I'm gonna have to like do a I'm gonna have to like follow your carb approach and come up with a comic artist reference book, which could help me figure out poses better. Because I think this is something that a lot of us artists struggle with, is that we may spend, like, if we're doing something, let's say it's a 2-hour illustration, an hour and a half may be spent just coming up with the pose, and then the last 30 minutes is coming up with rendering or coming up with fleshing out that initial pose. And this is another example of what Rod was talking about, is coming up with a system that helps you to come up with your ideas faster, so you can improve your drawing time, have more time producing art, and then instead of just thinking about what the art will be.
Yeah, I think what helps a lot with the references is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Because drawing the same character in different angles is something that I have struggled a lot. It's hard to get the same character in different positions, in different angles, and to make it look like it is the same character.
Yeah. Well, you do a good job of hiding that, because I think you do a great job of consistency. All right, with that, our time has expired, and wow, I'm looking at what you've done. Look at that. I just saw it when you were doing your rough lines, and this is an example to our audience in terms of what Rod was talking about with his carb approach, which is the comic artist reference. So if you can see on the left-hand side, it's a 3D model. And when he used this as a reference, and you noticed he came up with he described different ways that you could use this reference material to speed up your creative process, or like you laying down the lines. And, one of them, he said, you could trace it. One, you could use a grid pattern. And then what he did is he just has that as literally just a pose off to the left as he drew. And I think this is a great example of how artists can use 3D models, use references. And if you do the approach that Rod did, which he didn't trace over it, he didn't do a grid, he's already been practicing so much that his neural pathways and his muscle memory allows him to look at this visual reference and do the illustration that you see on the right. So incredible work. I love what you did. Do you want to talk a little bit about your illustration before I check while I check the art page and see if anybody drew along with us, Rod?
Well, what I would say that from the first step of the samurai method, when you create these pathways inside your neuron connections, when you create this, the second step would be to translate the 2D shapes into a 3D form. What I could have done here, instead of doing the way I have done here, I have a very little trick that you can also apply when you're creating a face. So what I need to do is to create a map. So I create here a square. I divided it in the middle. This part here, I'm going to divide again, and then I will divide in 3. Okay? So from this point to up here, I'm going to find the middle, and I'm going to create a circle. It's going to be something like this. And now I'm going to come with the jaws here. And I put the chin here. But from this, you can have the distance of the skull you have. And here is going to be the eyes. So you divide this in 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you have the eyes here. So now you have your coordinates, vertically and horizontally. All the coordinates are here. So you can place the elements in the right place with the right size. And this is proportion.
You make it look so easy. I love it. I love it. And I think that's one of the really cool things about your appearance today is not only are we getting to see how you utilize references, but this is Rod is sharing his techniques in terms of like how he's able to take these observations and these techniques that he's learned over the years to become much more efficient in coming up with it, and it just makes it simple. I like how we were talking about proportions, and I just think this is just brilliant to show this as an example. But Rod, I just want to let you know we had one person that drew along with us, and he's a great artist. I love what he does. He's a good friend of mine, and this goes to show about some of our reach here in terms of comics cast. It's from Mr. Victor Rufino from the Philippines. He stayed up late. I think it's like, I don't know, it's like 2:30 in the morning, I believe, over there. It's already like Monday morning there. But let me share with you what he's done. So let me share this real quick. Hold on one second. I'll bring it up. And so check this out. This is from Mr. Victor Rufino. How do you like that? So here we go. We got our first few fan arts of your character, Light. And
wow, very cool.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, Victor. Very, very cool. We got some comments here that I'm going to pop up here. I wanted to share with you. I think you might recognize this character. Philip Russert has chimed in. So I think he's still at San Diego Comic-Con. So he took some time to say Rodimus Prime. He's the man behind Legendary Illustrations, and he's the guy that put together the crack team of phenomenal talent that's going to be putting together that anthology that's coming out in October, Unknown Heroes. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next live drawing part. But we have, let's see, we got Molly who says here, she says that your artwork is very cool.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm just glad that there was a lot of people here that were able to comment here. But Victor, thank you very much for drawing along. Let me stop sharing this screen. And yeah, so let's keep the show moving along. I'm going to show mine real quick, and I guess I get the privilege of being the second person to do fan art of Light for you, Rod. So let me show that real quick, and then let's see, where is it? Here we go. So
Whoa,
I was trying
yeah.
to play around with some dynamic perspective myself, but definitely had to do a little bit more work on it. But it was nice to do a cool flight pose because I wanted to show her coming at you with her light powers. So
Yeah,
very.
the movement, the dynamism.
I hope I did her justice. I hope I was able to
Yeah,
do a
it's
really
awesome,
cool
man.
interpretation. Thank you. All right, so let me get this off the screen real quick, and let's bring our faces back here. So one more time, I want everybody to appreciate what Rod was able to do. I love this headshot. I guess if you were to do like one of those Marvel Universe handbook of the Marvel Universe style books, only for your characters, Rod. So I'm going to call it the Rodverse, maybe the Rodimus Rodolfo Prime Universe. I'm not sure what we're going to call it, but if you ever to do a handbook of your IPs, OCs, your original characters, this would be one of those headshots for light. Just really
Yeah.
cool, and it was I really appreciate that you were able to show us that technique, the carb approach, which is using a reference, a comic artist reference image, in this case a 3D model, and using it as a guide to do your illustration that you see here off to the
Yeah,
right.
the references helps a lot, and I mean, I use reference for everything because I think it's very important. Uh, Once I had to draw, I think it was a cute kitten.
Uh
I mean, whatever you can imagine. Think about a little cute kitten.
huh. Uh-huh.
It will never be as cute as real cute kittens. You just go to the Google and you have a look at cute kittens. I mean, man, my God, they are so adorable. They are so pretty. You will never be able to imagine such a cute kitten like that. And
Uh-huh.
you know, when you are drawing and you want your audience to feel that,
Mm-hmm.
it's fundamental to use the references.
And I think what Rod is stressing here is that as artists, we should not be ashamed to use reference because reference will add that bit of additional realism. And in case of the cute cat, it adds that cuteness because unless you draw cats all the time, it's like you need to have that reference to make it accurate, right? And I think that's a little bit of a stigma. You get kind of like this you get artists that do two different that maybe do extremes of what we were just talking about. You have the artist who says, oh, it's horrible to use references. I can't use references because if I use references, I'm not being a true artist, which is completely fake. Our greatest some of the
Yeah,
best artists use references all the time, right?
yeah,
And then you got
I don't believe that. I don't
yes,
believe it because,
yeah,
uh, I mean, references. You must be careful to when if you decide to trace it. You must be
yes,
careful because uh, the drawing can be stiff, or if you don't understand the structure behind the reference, if you don't
mhm,
understand the proportions, the anatomy, if you don't understand what you are drawing,
yes,
then even using the reference, you can take a picture and trace it, and it you lose credibility.
yes,
The drawing, even when you trace a picture, I have seen pictures, and we have examples of this in the professional world where they took a picture, they trace it, and it's funny because our brain, when you look at the picture, well, you know it's a picture, it's real, but when you look the same picture traced, you are going to say, oh man, come on, this is, I mean, this is wrong.
yeah. I think I get the same impression. It's sort of like when you look at it, you will never when you trace it, you will never be as good as the original, right? Because you're just tracing it. And I think that's the opposite extreme is that if you're just tracing it without, like you said, knowing the foundation, knowing the principles, knowing the underlying uh, aesthetics and foundation behind why something looks the way that it looks, and you're just looking at the lines and just tracing it over, you're never going to be able to truly appreciate and then in turn interpret it, draw it, create art.
I have no problem if you trace it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Drew Struzan traces it. Have you
But
ever heard
Drew,
about Drew Struzan?
yes, I love Drew Struzan, sir. Yeah.
The man, and he does a beautiful work, but he knows how to do it. He just
Yeah,
uses tracing techniques to get there faster. That's all.
Yeah. Well, I think Drew also has that. He's at that level where you were talking about that muscle memory, years of experience, and the neurons are all firing. So like think about Drew. I think all artists at some point in their career, and even myself, it's like occasionally as a study when we're learning the structure, when we're learning like maybe what an artist that we admire, or maybe seeing something from a photograph. It is okay as a learning technique to maybe trace to understand it, because if anything, it allows you to realize what your flaws are when you're tracing. You realizing what is you see that maybe the life in your tracing doesn't mimic the life in the photograph or the thing that you're trying to like mimic.
You just figured out the first step of the samurai method.
That's it. So
that's the best way to exercise and to create the biomemory you need.
Yes, right.
When you take, for example, let me get here.
Want me to bring up your screen here? Let me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the exercises. I mean, there is no magic to it. You are not going to get this biomemory overnight. You need
Exactly.
to work on it. But if you only take this X-Men file here that is on the card, and you start tracing every single image here, and you are going to start seeing different angles, different positions.
Right.
You will start building the muscle memory you need to go to the next level.
Yeah.
So here we have anatomy, the skeleton system, the muscular system. Start tracing these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you are tracing this, you are understanding the 2D shapes behind the 3D form. When you understand this, you can draw anything.
Yeah, brilliant. I love this style. So let me go ahead and I'm gonna put your screen. I'm gonna let you get primed to do our next next drawing exercise. Now we're gonna do something a little different. I am actually not going to draw the next challenge because we're doing something a little different this go around. I'm going to actually observe this time, and this is going to be a treat for me because usually I have to do this afterwards. I don't get to see what my guests do until after the show when I watch it because I'm actually drawing along with them. So this time we're doing something a little different. We are going to color. Or actually not me. And when I say we, I'm going to get to observe. Rod is going to be coloring because I mentioned, we showed his artwork earlier, and not only is he a fantastic penciler, inker, but he's a phenomenal colorist. So today, when I was talking to, or actually yesterday when I was talking to Rod, what we're going to do a little different is that we're going to actually get to see the initial color stages that Rod does when he's laying down flats. And we're going to learn a little bit about some of the terminology and some of the techniques that Rod does. So, and not only that, we're going to get to preview a page or some pages from Light, which is a part of that anthology. So while I'm going to let you, Rod, pull up that page. And before you do that, I'm going to share with our audience some of the sequentials that you've already built for Light. That's a part of the anthology. So I can let people see what they're going to be able to support in October. So let me do that. And I'm going to let you pull up your file so you can get ready to color real quick as soon as we show this. So let me share this real quick. And here we go. All right. So this is a Comics Cast Let It Out exclusive. You get to see this first. This is a part of Philip Russert's Unknown Heroes anthology that's coming out later in October. And Rod is one of several artists that will be contributing short stories to this anthology. So you get to see the logo here. That's a killer logo. I think it's iconic in itself already, and it hasn't even come out yet. But I wanted to show this. Get ready to be wowed. Look how crazy this is. This is look at these textures. Look at this dynamic lighting and these really pronounced shadows. And what I'm going to say, when I saw this, I actually just got to see this morning before we did the show. And who doesn't want to see a super heroine fighting dinosaurs? This is what we get here. So this particular, yes, exactly. The T-Rex, the Velociraptor. Apparently, he doesn't stand a chance because you can see he's already he gets destroyed here. But you see this panel that's here on the left where she's delivering this punch to this dinosaur. This is the panel that we're going to actually get to see Rod color. But I want to preview a couple more or a few more pages here. So let me zoom out here because I just want to really just get people excited about what we're going to be seeing from Rod.
This is the villain.
Oh, this is the villain. Okay.
Yeah, look what he's doing.
I know. I just noticed that.
What?
Oh, yeah, and that's his villainous superpower. He cannot resist. So, but anyway, very very funny. I think it's
his father.
What was that again?
His father actually molested him.
Oh, so there's something. Okay.
What we are seeing is a trauma from childhood, and builds his subconscious mind, and now he thinks that every woman can be used. And he's the typical guy that only thinks about himself, and
right.
He doesn't care about girls and women. And by the end of the story, we go and there is a splash page where we see he's facing his traumas. And he understanding that you are not this personality. You can change your personality and be someone better, be better.
Right. I like that because you're putting the villain has a deeper story, that childhood trauma that makes him behave that he does.
Makes him being a jerk.
Yeah, exactly. but I'm looking here at the artwork here, your storytelling. The word bubbles haven't been put in here. These are inked already, but just look at the incredible amount of detail. You're establishing shots, just creating this environment that's very believable. I mean, I think that it has a very cinematic quality. I like how you're focusing into objects, just to make it feel like it's at home. That she's coming home. This is kind of like the Ma and Pa Kent, coming home, for Superman. This is like her coming home.
Yeah. And then we show her family, the love that they have, the relationship, the beautiful relationship that every family should have.
And this is where I'm gonna I have to give you props again here, because you were talking about consistency. We just got to see in the last live drawing section or section of the show, or part of the show, where he did a portrait of Light, a head and shoulders shot, and she looks just like she does here. So consistency, you've gotten that down completely. This is why Rod is a complete master. And then here we have more pictures. And this is what
the cute cat.
The cute cat. This is what you were talking about. So it's a cute dog here too. So Rod is not afraid to say that he used references, because you too can attain this level of cuteness when drawing a cat. You just got to find the right reference and build the muscle memory so you can do that. But I love this because we go from this particular scene from this. So we get to see this really no holds barred action sequence, right? And then this is the versatility of Rod to doing something like this, these quiet moments, these moments that show the relationship, building the character, showing the world, in this case, that she lives in. So incredible work. I just love it. So that being said, if you'd like to, like our audience, if you'd like to like draw along, and if you drew along, and if you want to color, if you like Victor, if you want to color your piece, you're more than welcome to. We're gonna, like I said, we're gonna mix it up. I'm gonna get to observe this time, and I'm just gonna watch, or we're all gonna watch Rod show how he colors, how he lays down flats, and for a particular panel. And if he has time, maybe he'll not only lay some flats in, he'll add some color embellishments as well. So I'm gonna set the clock to 20 minutes. And we'll just see how far Rod gets with it. So Rod, let me pull up your art cam, and I'm going to put that at full. All right, so I'm going to maximize it, so that way everybody can see this from your point of view. And while you're doing it, I'm just going to observe. And if you just want to talk about, I think it'd be great if you could say like what exactly flatting is, like your approach for like how you think light and color would work on light. That's my pun for today. I'm going to let you just sort of like talk about your coloring ideas as you build a panel. So I'm starting the clock, and the mic is in your hands. Go for it.
All right. So the flat is when we separate the colors without rendering. So let me, I like to separate this way. I have the background. I'm going to create the layers: background, middle ground, and foreground. So I have my layers here, and on the background here, I am going to start selecting the character to make the flat color of her. So I choose the lasso tool, and I'm going to start selecting her. So this, I gotta say, this is a boring process that really needs to be done. This is the one step of the process that really needs to be done. It is a little boring because we are just selecting here. The fun part starts when we start rendering.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's you say it's boring, but it's essential. It's an essential part of it, and it actually allows you, as in this case, you as the colorist, to like you said, separate elements of the character or the panel. Um, so
yeah,
so
it's
flat.
absolutely essential. It must be done. There's no way around it. I just wish that there was a faster and easier way than doing this.
So the samurai method, there's no quick way to do colors in the samurai method,
Yeah,
I guess, right?
it doesn't fix it. The best way I can think is to hire some flatter.
Yes, and I think that's something that I guess I've noticed in the last, I guess in the last decade. There seems to be like another category of professional in comics, because usually you have the penciler, the inker, and the colorist, and now there's like this thing is that coloring has become such an, not that it wasn't an art before, but it's become such a next level. It's like the evolution of, if you were to compare coloring from like the 80s comic books to the coloring that you see in comic books of today, it's like night and day. There is
Yeah,
just some incredible
amazing.
color work that's being done, and I think that that's what's happened, is that in order to make it so that those colorists can achieve that levels, that there's become this I wouldn't say it's a subcategory, it's just another level of the professionals that create a comic book, and they're called comic book color flatters. And what they do is that a colorist, or maybe a publisher or editor, will like hire a flatter, so that way all of those individual elements that are in a panel or a sequential page or even a pinup, they can all be broken down. All the hair, the skin tones, the background, if there's buildings or if there's smoke or fire, all those things can be broken down into color sections. And so that way, when the colorist afterwards gets the piece, it allows them to easily select those elements and then further do what they do best, which is like to bring out like this next level coloring. So, and I think this is important too. I think it's interesting. I always, when I see flats, most people when to the casual comic comic book reader, when they see like the flats, they like are like completely like, you know, weirded out. They're like going, why did the flatter use, like in this case, why did you use a light cyan, like light blue to color light? And it's not important what exactly that color is, because basically even it's actually better to use actually high contrast colors like fuchsias and yellows and things like that, because basically the colorist that's going to be using this afterwards, they just need to see what elements will be that are isolated to the object that they're going to be coloring. So when you use high contrast colors, that allows for instant recognition. And then of course, you know, whatever light's actual color, they'll know what to render on top of. Is that correct? Is that my correct? Yes.
Yeah, I like to work this way. I believe other artists have different takes on it. You know, everyone likes to work differently. I just like to work this way because for me it's easier to see what I'm doing, what I'm working on, and after I have everything, then it will be time to render and choose the right colors and everything. But as of
It's so fun though, because actually the crazier the colors that you come up with when you do your flats, it lends itself for a very interesting color composition. Because the colors are so wacky that it's like this could be like an Andy Warhol version of Light, the comic. All you need to do is throw like maybe some screen tones on it and make it look like screen tones, or posterize it a little bit, and you could see this like on a screen printed on a t-shirt. I think it'd be really cool. But yeah, so for those of you who are just joining us, or if you're still watching, we're going through a process of how Rod colors, or how he approaches coloring his artwork. And right now, what we're doing what the industry calls flat. It's called flatting, and it's just isolating all the elements in a particular, in this case, a panel, and just showing that this is going to be one object, and this will allow him to isolate and then change the color easily once he's flatted it.
Yeah, one detail here is that when you are flatting, you need to select like in the middle of the line work. You can't go over and you can't go under.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you go over, it's going to happen what happens here.
Yes,
And the colors go over the line work.
Yes,
And if you
yes.
go under, then you have
a gap.
I get a problem. It's going to look very weird.
So I just wanted to share with you, Rod, we got Len Danovich, who's joining us. He was my guest last week, and he's also very talented illustrator, creator, and I'm glad that we actually have returning guests who are showing up in our audience. So it's very cool to have you here.
Hey, hello, welcome.
And Sarah, Sarah is one of our frequent audience participants, and she also does a lot of our fan art with us. She's here. So Sarah, we're not doing any drawing for this last challenge because she usually draws along with us. But you're in for a treat, Sarah, because we're getting to see how Rod, who's my guest today, is going, how he approaches flatting, color flatting.
Okay, so I'm going to the middle ground now
Okay.
to put some colors in this speed lines.
Yeah. So just to let our audience know, what application are you using? Is this Clip Studio Paint?
This is Clip Studio, yes.
Ah, okay.
Uh,
So you
I
you
use
do
it,
digital as well as traditional. So correct? Is
yeah.
that?
Philip has a lot of commissions for me,
Uh-huh.
and if anyone is interested in a commission, just talk to Philip. There are,
Yes.
he has, I don't know if it's 20 now. He has about 20 commissions I have done traditionally.
Yeah, Philip is a big fan of traditional art. He loves seeing things, uh, tangible things that he can hold and that have the artist's literal blood, sweat, and tears. Where you can see the ink splotches or the whiteouts. He likes to see he likes to have the original artwork, and um,
Oh,
that just goes to
we
show
try
you.
over digital too.
Yeah, and digital is, and not I'm not definitely not knocking digital. I think digital has its own strengths, and you're talking about your samurai method. I mean, I think there are ways that digital can just speed your process up. And I think
Yeah,
that that's
the
a
samurai method can be used traditionally and digitally
and digitally,
because
yes.
it's a method for you to create the decision
Hmm.
patterns, and once you
Right.
have the decision patterns and you understand the shapes and forms, then you go to the third step of it, making it impactful, dynamic, working with shadows. When you base your figures here in the references,
Hmm.
that's where I got the shadows. Because imagining a shadow, how does a shadow works? A tip I would I would share is that whenever the light is hitting, whenever the face, the line is hitting, it's going to cast a shadow on the opposite face,
Right.
right? So here we have a light hitting her here, and probably there is another a second light source hitting her on the other side. That's
Mhm.
going to cast a diffuse light.
I tell you, it's like, I have not gotten to that level because, heck, I still have a phobia when it comes to inking, and I've only colored a few things. But I think that once you become that when you start coloring more, I think this is another thing that Rod can attest to, is that you start looking at things in nature differently. You start looking at things in your environment and go, oh, that has that light source. Oh, that has that light source. Oh, that's what's creating a rim lighting effect, or that's what's causing a silhouette. Uh, I just know that that's something that, you don't really fully appreciate until you have to color something on your own, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's uh, definitely something that I am never going. I don't use anymore. Is the total black and total white, because nature is not like that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. When you're talking about that, there's artists that I've watched, and when they do their initial colors, sometimes they don't go to flats like right away. They do a step in between it, which is kind of like tonal. Like they'll do tones, and they'll use a gray tone, and that way they'll be able to understand, uh, where the color shifts will happen naturally, and by using gray tones. And so when they put the flats in, or when they go direct to coloring, they'll know, what the transitions between light and dark are, because they've laid in the foundations in tones. And with you've done just your inks to going to flats, so you have these really bold shadows in your figures already. Have you ever thought about doing gray tones, as in an
Yes,
intermediary step?
I think on the other page, on the second page, there is, well, this is one way of doing the gray tones when you are
Yes, you have done it. Yes, that's right. I forgot.
uh, it's
Mhm.
hatching.
Yes.
It's just hatching. It's different than working with pencils. There's a different feeling to it,
Uh-huh.
but I think it works just the same.
Right.
I have a brush, another brush here that can be used to do this kind of things, and they look very gradient. But I don't usually do that when I am inking, because inking most of the time is just lines.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to use lines like this to create the gray tones.
This is brilliant. I didn't mean to distract you from your flatting, so keep on doing that. Just to give you a heads up, we got 5 more minutes here. So,
Oh, just 5 minutes.
yeah, but
Okay.
you know what? But it's yeah. What I would do is like maybe can you? I see that you've already isolated light, the speed lines, the impact, and the dinosaur. Do you think maybe we can like now that you've separated light out? Do you think maybe you can take? I don't know what your next step would be here in this particular piece, but maybe you can start like maybe coloring her face, like how you would now that you flatted her a little bit,
Mhm.
maybe you can just do that bit of her face. Uh,
Yeah,
um,
there would be another step for of flatting that
uh-huh.
on her, I'm going to create another layer. Wait a minute.
To like separate her costume elements, right? Like
Yeah.
her skin
Yeah.
tones. Okay, you know what? Let's add. I'm gonna add 10 more minutes. Let me do that. I'm gonna add 10 minutes because I really would like. We're only gonna be. This is our only other illustration. Let's start with another 10 minutes, and that way you can kind of talk about your process of separating her costume elements and her, like her everything from her flesh tone to her hair to like her gauntlets. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
so yeah. Go
when
ahead.
I create this next layer, I can do things like this, and then let's just pick a color here, which accelerates the process.
Mhm.
On Photoshop, you have to press to create the layer, and you have to press the Alt or Option key to be able to do this. But here on Clip Studio, all you have to do uh, is click on this icon right here. I have the layer selected, and then I click
Uh-huh.
on this icon, and then I am able to simply go around, and I don't have to
Yeah.
worry.
Oh, that's
So
so cool. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I don't
Huh.
have to do all that stuff I have done before.
Yeah.
I
I'm
have
gonna
the
like keep on doing it. There's been some comments here that I want to share with you. Let's see. I'll just read them to you while you keep on working. Um, Sarah commented here. Traditional is great, but something about digital, you can mix brushes that normally don't work together. I figured that out when I started on my own digital learning journey. Yeah, so I guess this is an example of just there are things that you can just experiment with digitally and not have to worry about the repercussions because you can do Control Z, you can do Apple
yeah.
Z and undo stuff. So, and that allows you. It's like you can mix brushes. Like you showed the panel above this where you use like a. I don't know. Did you use a hatching brush or did you actually hatch with like individual lines? I mean, I think that digitally there are brushes that allow you to speed up the hatching process, and you that's something that if you're going to do it traditionally, there's no way around it. You basically have to draw all the lines and layer your hatch work. Um,
Yeah, there are brushes that I use it to hatch this. These are texture brushes,
mhm.
and this simply creates this great texture. Uh, I would say 10,000 times faster than
Exactly.
for
Uh-huh.
catching this.
Uh-huh.
Of course, there are other things like this kind of hatching here that there are no brushes for.
Yeah, you have to
This,
do it yourself. Yep.
yeah, and this it has a more organic brush to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if any tool could ever replicate this kind of work because it's very organic, and that's what gives personality to the work.
Hmm. And I think that that's the thing too, is that there's these traditional purists, and then there's these digital advocates. They'll say, oh, you should only do digital, and then you have other people saying, oh, you should only do traditional. And I think that it's just the evolution of artistic expression. Whether it's digital or traditional, it's being able to use the tools at your disposal creatively and effectively. So whether you're doing it digitally, knowing what brushes are out there that are digital brushes that allow you to effectively render something or communicate what you're trying to do visually. And then the same thing with traditional art. You want to be able to find the tools, whether it's a special pencil or a Copic marker or a micron pen. They're just tools that allow you to come up to visually create something. So I'm from the school of use whatever tool to create your art,
Yeah,
whether yeah, it doesn't have
and
to be digital, it doesn't have to be traditional. It actually can be both, right?
yeah, and actually, the hard part, I think, it's learning how to use the tools.
Yes, right.
Because I never believed that lie where people say, "Hey, if you are a great artist, you can use whatever tool you."
Right.
I mean,
Uh,
I am a great artist, but how am I going to ink with a chocolate bar? Is that
so
possible?
well, you know what, it's funny that you mentioned that, because if you're um if you when you build that muscle memory, when you establish those neurons that you talked about, the scientific approach that you were talking about, learning how to draw and to be efficient and fast, it's like it's just a tool is a tool. It's sort of like if I were to give Rod, if I were to give you a crayon, I think that you could probably produce some really phenomenal artwork with a crayon, and that would look just as good as stuff that you did with a like an expensive Copic marker. Um, if I were to give you a brush and a cup of coffee, and I told you to ink this with really strong coffee instead of India ink, I'm sure you could do that too. These are just tools of the trade. It's like it doesn't make up for those muscle memory hours of practicing the right way. Using what you said, the samurai method. Using that those the tool just becomes an extension of something that you've developed mentally. And then you're able to execute physically, whether it's in a digital sense or a traditional sense. Just am I right? I don't know. Am I just blabbing?
Uh, I think every tool has its limits,
Hmm.
and I think drawing with the wrong tool, it will be very difficult to get the
Ah,
result you are looking for.
yes, I see your point. I see your point.
If I want this texture, I can't use the other brush. It
Right.
won't
I see
give
your
me
point.
this texture.
Hmm.
If I want this line, I need to use the right brush to get this line.
Hmm.
And every tool, I think, has an specific uh,
Purpose.
purpose. Yes, thank you. And oh, come on. And I think it's essential to understand Oh, it's saving.
Oh, okay. Your time
Ah,
your time machine kicked in. Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
it's
I'm
something on the Clip
Mhm.
Studio. I don't know why he's saving automatically when
Yeah.
this
You,
happens.
you
So,
know what this I'm look I'm looking at your composition and your flats that you have here, and it reminds me of and I guess it's because I have it on my brain right now. I don't know if you got a chance to watch it, but at San Diego Comic-Con they revealed the Wakanda Forever movie trailer. It's the Black Panther movie, the
mhm.
continuation of it, and they introduced Namor and Atlantis. And I don't know if you read um, Namor's story like in the comic books, but there's like the blue-skinned Atlanteans, and I just can't help but when I'm looking at this, and you laid your flats in there, I was like going, oh, this kind of reminds me of like the blue-skinned Atlanteans, and even though this isn't the right colors, I was just like I said, I had Wakanda Forever on my brain, and it just made me think about that. But now you're putting in the skin tones here, so um, it's or at least the skin flats for
Yeah,
him.
it's only the flats. I still have to fix these kind of things because if you don't fix this now when you are starting rendering, oh man, you are going to face some awful. It's going to look bad on the end.
Hey, so I was just noticing, because now you're zoomed in here. I was looking at her gauntlets, and is that like a circuitry or circuit board that's in her gauntlet, or is that just a texture? It looks because
Uh,
it almost looks like a electronic circuit board. Is that
uh,
is
I wanted it to look like shiny, something
shine?
shiny.
Oh, shiny. Okay.
Uh,
Uh-oh. I just realized the time has expired. so
oh,
so
okay. So
but you know what?
let's look at what
Let's zoom
we
out
have
here.
so far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And uh
this would be the flats, the flats phase. And after this, after everything is flattened, we would start rendering and creating textures and diffuse color, hard color, and this kind of things.
oh yeah. So what I would like it's to our audience, if you're watching, this is just the flatting process. This is the initial stage that Rod does before he goes in to do tighter colors. And these colors that you see here, they don't necessarily represent what Light's costume color is, or definitely not just what her face or the dinosaur's
This is
color
not,
skin.
yeah.
Yeah, these are just I guess it's a good term is it's like color isolation. You're just basically isolating panels or elements within the composition, in this case this panel, and breaking it down so that these are the areas that would allow him to like easily select and color things. Like if he were to put like a blanket gradient across just her face, now that he's put her face on its own color field, it's been isolated, he could just apply a gradient lighting effect just to her face because he has that isolated. And the same with like her hair. If you want to put like a glow around just her hair has been isolated, so he could do that easily. If he wanted to make the dinosaur polka dots, he's isolated the dinosaur, so he could easily do that as well. So this has been a little bit of this has been an education process, experience here on Comics Cast. Let It Out to show just what Rod does. So Rod, what I would encourage you is I know this is a work in progress because this is part of an anthology that you're going to be doing. It's going to come out in October. It's part of the Unknown Heroes anthology. But Rod, if you want to just finish this panel and share it with us, I would love to show this to our audience later on, post it to the Comics Cast Facebook page, and just give everybody a preview of his character Light fighting a dinosaur who doesn't last very long, because you can see in panel 3 the dinosaur is pretty much disintegrated. But you can see the
Over for you,
short-lived,
man.
yeah, you can see the short-lived fight, or this first initial blow here that light delivers to this dinosaur. So let me show our faces again. Hold on one second. I'm gonna take that out here, and then so yeah, so we did this part of the show, and I would just like to move to like the next part of the show now that we've done this, which is talking about where you are right now, Rod. And I'm gonna unshare this so we can see our faces real big here. You have a lot of projects that you're working obviously with Legendary Illustrations. You got your anthology that you're going to be coming out with them in October. We talked about the Carb, which is the comic artist reference book. We talked about the Samurai Method. We even talked a little bit about the Troll Detector, which I think that's really fun. But let's talk about you being an entrepreneur. You being a CEO of your Alpha Brain Studios. I would love for you to talk about what you're doing like right now, and just fill in our guests in terms of what's going on with Rod.
Yeah. So right now I am on the process of, I believe, refining the Samurai Method. I have the books, the Carb, the Samurai Method book, and the Troll Detector book, which my problem is that I have high expectations for them. And so if you want to write a book, you want to write the best book ever, right?
Uh-huh.
So, my expectations is that these books are going to help a lot of people, and I want them to be, I mean, the best books ever. So because of this, I have this perfectionist problem, and I look at some pages and I say, hey, these are good, these are fine, these are good to go. And tomorrow I look at them and say, oh man, this looks awful. I'm going to trash it all and I'm going to start all over.
Mhm.
And so I am afraid I'm talking to an editor, and I'm kind of afraid to send the book to him because he's going to, man, do you even know how to write?
Well, I think that if it's anything like your artwork that we showed here earlier, um, you are a perfectionist, but you're also a producer. We only showed like a handful, and it was such a great amount of work that you've done. So it's kind of like if you have your book, it's sort of like get it out there, get it to the editor in whatever state that it's in, because to quote another artist that I follow, you may have heard of him. His name is Jake Parker. He said he's the guy who founded Inktober. He made I don't know if this was his actual quote or if he picked it up from somebody else, but I heard it through him, and it was finished, not perfect.
Yeah, I heard
So
that. Yeah,
you finished, yeah, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be in a state that could be kind of like a work in progress, but it allows you to
easier
like
said than done.
yeah, exactly. And I'm not the person to tell you that, because I'm definitely I can't I have very few things finished, but I would say that for you, getting it out there, because I'm going to say this from a purely, let's put this from a very marketing point of view. When you can get the Samurai Method Part 1 out, like in whatever state that it's in, then you can do Volume 2, new
Yeah,
and improved, and then that way it's like, hey, here's the second edition, or like the new
another
improved version.
steps.
And right, and I think
Yeah,
that's going to be it. And I think that I'm so interested in hearing more about like the Samurai Method, and of course building my own Carb comic. I have a comic artist reference book, but I'd like to see what you've done, because it's interesting to see how those would combine together. The Samurai Method and the Carb So that allows you to become that efficient artist.
Mhm.
So now that we talked about what you're doing now, what is the future? Like, where do you see yourself, Rod, in like 10 years?
Yeah. What I would like to become is gratitude, compassion, love, and peace. And from that state, uh, I believe that the work is going to be a result of that state of mind, of that state of consciousness, of that state of frequency vibration.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a process to go into that state where you can actually raise your brainwaves frequency. There are 5 brainwaves: uh, delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma.
Mm-hmm.
If, if you like Hulk.
So if I harness my gamma brainwave, I can Hulk out. So,
I
uh,
mean, you can do anything
right.
because this state of mind, this is brainwave frequency, is the same as delta. Delta is in your deep sleep.
Mhm.
When you are in deep sleep, your body is healing.
Ah,
The difference is that when you are in gamma, you are awake, you are conscious.
right.
Your body is healing, but you are awake. You are in a completely different than right now. We are in beta.
Uh-huh.
Beta?
Ah,
Yeah.
I am learning so much from you. If I could, if I could harness my correct brain waves, then maybe I could be as good as you. But I think that that's one of the brilliant things I've learned, or let me say, one of the things that I've learned from you is how brilliant your approach is in terms of like taking a scientific approach to your artwork and utilizing these ideas, these beliefs in quantum physics and alpha brain waves and muscle memory, uh, and all using those things to use your troll detector and detect all the negativity and make sure that you get those out of your life too. So it's been
Yeah.
so cool. It's been so cool to see your approach, your techniques, and how not only is it being shown in your art, you're putting together references for other artists, other creators to look at, and that being the samurai method and the carb book and the troll detector. I think that's so cool. So yeah, so we've pretty much, this is where we're going to be ending, wrapping up the show, and this is where I'm going to get really sad because it's all good things have to come to an end, but it doesn't mean that this is going to be one of those things where I don't talk to Rod anymore. This is the beginning of a great friendship, and I'm going to be following you, and I would like all of our audience to follow him too. So if you look at the bottom, I posted it again. This is how you can follow Rod on Facebook, Instagram. You can go to his website, which is Alpha Brain Studio, because when I see Alpha Brain Studio, when I first saw it, it's like First Brain Studio, first, Alpha, and it means so much more now that I've learned from you in terms of like your approach. So that being said, let's move to what we call the Oscar speech, which is where you get to give your final thoughts, any of your thank yous. Yeah, it's something that it's got kind of a bad rap here in America because of what Will Smith did. But don't worry, I'm not going to reach across the interwebs to slap you, and you don't have to slap me. We're just going to listen to your final thoughts. So I'm gonna like maximize your screen, and I'll let you give your Oscar speech. Here you go. Mic is in your hands.
I would like to thank you. Thank everybody that came here and watched the show. I'd like to thank Philip Russell from Legendary Illustration. He's representing me. He's a great guy. He has great stories. The anthology is coming on October on Kickstarter. And I'm also working for Oneshi Press with another anthology that's coming, I believe, on October 2. And I also would like to maybe offer you guys a discount on the Alpha Brain Art Studio shop, that we can create a coupon for everybody if you want to get the carb book or any prints or commissions or whatever. And I don't know how we can call it. We can create it later, and then we can post it to everybody that is following Comic Cast.
Absolutely.
And yeah, right. I was thinking I could create a 50% discount for the Samurai Method, but I would need you guys to help me improve the course.
All righty.
Right?
Well, we can talk about that, and I appreciate that. Is 50% discount. That's awesome, Rod. I will talk to you. Obviously, we're friends now, so we can definitely talk about how we can make that a reality.
Yeah, and offer to all your fans and your followers too. But I really need you guys to help me to improve this method, because I want it to be clear and to be efficient. And I'm not already sure that I am being clear to express what I want and what I'm trying to share. And if you don't want to help me to improve it, maybe I can offer you a 20 or 10%.
Well, I think that it's what you've talked about during the show, it sounds intriguing, and any way that our audience can help make it a better product and also support you at the same time, I think that would be a wonderful experience. It would be something that we could definitely show how we can give back to our guests, and our guests can give back at the same time. But yeah, is there anything you want to add to your Oscar speech? Is there anybody else you want to thank, or anything you want to add about your final thoughts?
I really enjoyed to be here today. I enjoyed to meet you, to now be friends with you, and thank you so much for having me.
It was my pleasure, and I'm gonna actually add to your Oscar speech, because I want to quote you from what you said earlier when we were talking about where Rod is now. You mentioned something that was very moving to me, and I just wanted to reiterate it. And it's like, you want to impart love and compassion in your artwork. You want to be able to share that with your audience, and I think that that's brilliant. I think that's really neat, because not only are you a compelling storyteller, a visual storyteller, you found you're finding ways to impart knowledge as well as, like you said, compassion and love. You're wanting to give back. It's not just about doing great art. You want to show how you got to do that great art. You want to actually to show that process, but you also want to share how you came to that conclusion scientifically. Biologically. I think it's just really cool when you're talking about alpha, beta, gamma brainwaves and quantum physics and things like that. And you can wrap that all up into doing phenomenal artwork, just like we got to see with the black the Black Scarab, and we got to see with the Light Warriors. And we got to see your tremendous fan art too. I forgot to mention that you're a big fan of G.I. Joe, and I love so Yo Joe, and I got so wrapped up in listening to you about your other things that you some phenomenal artwork that we got to see of some G.I. Joe characters. So thank you for being my guest. Before we go though, I always do this with I always end every show with this. So if you let me share one more screen. Share this, and this last thing that I do is to promote our charity partner. So if you go to goldenfight.org, you can learn a little bit about this group. And this charitable organization is something that I like to say is big enough and small enough at the same time. Small enough in the sense, not international or even national here domestically in the United States. They have a very focused approach, which is the Mid-Atlantic region of like my neck of the woods. And that allows them to really put maximum effort into the area that they are focused on. And this is where they're big. This is where they are huge. Golden Fight's mission is to help families who have kids that are dealing with difficult illnesses like cancer. And when parents are focused on the healing of their child, inevitably they will experience financial difficulty, and that's where Golden Fight comes in. I was thinking that, you know, like 98, 97% of the money they would raise would go to those families, and that like nominal 1, 2, 3% would have to do with administrative things, because any organization has to deal with that. That's just a reality. But I was wrong. 100% of the money they raise goes to these families. I mean, that's stellar. That's incredible. So check this out. Check out this organization. If there is a charity that you would like to learn about, that maybe that you were considering donating to, Golden Fight might be that organization. We are not financially tied to them at all. We just want to bring awareness to a stellar charity that has nothing but the best and greatest intentions to help families that are dealing with difficult illnesses for their child. So that being said, let me minimize this, get this off the screen real quick. And I want to pop this up one last time. This is how you can follow Rod. On Facebook, on Instagram, you can go to Alpha Brain Studio. You can look into his samurai method, his carb book, his troll detector. Awesome. I love that. You can check that out. I would love for you guys to like and subscribe to him so you can see what he's doing. Look for his book with legendary, or his contribution to an anthology book with legendary illustrations called Unknown Heroes, featuring the character Light, which we drew today, as well as got to see some flatting color artwork that Rod did. So that being said, get ready to show. Thank you, Rod, for being my guest. And our audience, Victor, thank you for drawing along with us. I appreciate everybody. I love you guys, and I can't wait to like feature more great artists like Rod, or actually great creators, because he is not just an artist; he's a great creator. I've enjoyed listening to his philosophy and his outlook on life. It's made me just all the more inspired by everything that he does. So that being said, this is Gerald. This is Rod. We're going to be tuning out right now, but I want you to come back next week for another show. Comics Cast, Let It Out, signing out. See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.